don't screw up your next online meeting. So hi, my name's Simon Williams. I'm the External Chief Marketing Officer at Overnight Design. And today we're going to talk about mastering online meetings very, very briefly. I'm not going to cover it in great detail here, but I want to tell you a bit about my cheat sheet, my prep sheet. So this was all born out of me put together in a meeting, an interview, a masterclass actually, with Ash Pemberton, who's the CEO of Overnight Design, and Lee Warren. Lee Warren really is an expert about presentation, about actually delivering the presentation itself. So Ash is an expert on the graphical side of presentations, and Lee in the performance of it. Now, after putting that meeting together and actually interviewing both these people, I came away with lots of real gold, and actually had to put a prep sheet together, not too dissimilar to this, to make sure that we've got the microphones all set up correctly, the lights were on, we're recording, sound levels were correct, and all those sort of things to make sure we didn't screw it up, right? Well, I didn't screw it up. So that was very, very helpful for me. But after that meeting, there was lots more things I wanted to include on my sort of cheat sheet. And it's grown and grown to become what it is now. And I have found this massively helpful, really. So I've been using this for about 6 weeks, and I use it from pretty much every meeting I do now. It just takes me about 1 or 2 minutes to complete, and I think my delivery is, I would say it's at least 300% better than what it was. So let me run through that. I'm going to show it to you now, and please feel free to cheat and steal this sheet. In fact, I'm going to give you a link in a moment and below this video, so you can actually just download this and use it yourself, and please do so with my and our blessing. At the top here, I just realized that I created this for me, right? But please feel free to use it. So I've got a little statement here at the top here, which is a bit of a reminder to myself that an amateur practices until they do a thing right, but a professional practices until they can't get it wrong. And I think that's a really valid point, right? So it's something I kind of constantly telling myself, and reminds me to play the very best that I can. So down the right hand side here is all the technical stuff, right? But really important to make sure it's covered. So we've got, make sure we've got the external mic selected, the correct one. We do a sound level check. We select the right video camera. We position the camera so it's around eye level. We've lit the face so that you have to look at my ugly mug, and we light the background because it looks better. I've actually got a light on the background now. I don't have a remote, so I can't easily turn it off for you whilst I'm doing this video, but when it's dark, it all just looks dingy and horrible. And even though the background isn't important for the content, of course not, it makes it better. It just does. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. So don't sort of skip these little steps. Have you positioned it so your face fills the lens, right? I'm pretty close to my camera, almost a little bit too close for me, but I think video-wise, it's okay. If I'm positioned back here, as I've seen many, many meetings, any energy I've got is just going to dissipate and evaporate and not get down the camera lens, right? So I do think it's important that we are positioned pretty close to that lens. Do we have our do not disturbs and mobiles and things on silent? That's really important. I always like to have a glass of water nearby. Actually, something that's not on this list, and I also like to do, is to have some sucky sweets. So I have some sucky sweets, some Mentos or whatever it is nearby. It just helps lubricate my throat, particularly if it becomes a long meeting, or at least in between meetings. I take that sort of very regularly. It really helps, actually. This last point is actually quite a big one, and it's just this sticky note. I've actually just come off the computer right now, but I'll normally have this stuck right in the middle of my laptop, pointing up to the camera lens to make sure I actually look at the lens. The only reason it's not on the camera right now is it was kind of making the laptop camera shake, so I've just taken it off for a moment to do this video recording. But I use that, and it's a a very direct reminder to make sure I look down the lens. So let me just show you a little video clip that of Lee Warren explaining this very point.
So eyes is the next one I brought up, and this we can deal with very quickly, but eyes are important. So the single biggest tip here, and again, I can't believe so many people are still getting this wrong, is you have to get used to looking into the lens, not at yourself, and not constantly looking for feedback from text or from audiences' reactions. And it's a bit of a habit you have to train yourself into. So I'm looking into the lens now. I'm not looking at myself or any of the people attending this call. If I go down here, which is my instinct, because I can see myself in my peripheral vision, if I look down here, this looks natural to me. This feels great to me. But to you watching this probably feels like I've just lost interest in you, or I'm reading some notes or something. If I come back to the lens, this feels a little bit strange to me. I've got used to it now, but it used to feel strange. But to you, this probably is a much more satisfying experience. So
that's just a little clip from Lee Warren there, just explaining the importance of eyes. And actually, one of the things that came at the end of that masterclass, and we asked people, what was some of the sort of takeaways they got. That simple little sort of trick or tip there was one of the things that came up for almost everybody, that just remember to look down the lens. So I use that. It's just a sticky note to remind myself to look down the lens. And then the last thing, very, very importantly, is am I recording? And I've got that literally done, literally written twice to double check that I am recording, because I have done it, and I've done it more times than I like to, admit that I completed something and it wasn't recording. I did almost a whole podcast once, which wasn't recorded. It's devastating with somebody that was going to be very hard to get their time again. So, for the sake of a little piece of paper, to make sure I don't make that mistake in the future is, really, really valuable to me. But the real gold is on the left-hand side, right? So this is specific to each and every meeting. So, what is the theme? What is the subject matter of that particular meeting? So that's what I call the title. And you see I've got these little circular dots here. So I just tick these off as I've either confirmed that they've done, or as I've said them, or I've made a note of what they are. Then the hook. So what is the hook? The hook is the opening statement. So if you think about films for a moment, you go and watch the next James Bond movie, it's pretty much surely going to start with a big opening sequence. And that sequence, by the way, will have absolutely nothing to do with the plot of the film. Why does it do that? Because it wants to get you engaged. It wants to kind of get you metaphorically to the front of your seat, to get you tuned in, raise your awareness, get you engaged, participating in that event. And we need to do that in our other forms of communication for a very similar reason. So when I was on stage, speaking to sometimes big audiences, maybe 1,000 people, maybe 2,000 people, for sure I have got to have quite a bold, big opening statement to try and get as much of that audience engaged and listening to the rest of my content. So you may or may not remember, but actually what I wrote down for my hook, and what I actually said at the start of this meeting was, don't screw up your next online meeting. So that's a slightly provocative, bold statement, but that's why we do it. And I think a hook is really, really vital in almost all of our meetings. I know it kind of can seem a bit almost scary, and it's easy to kind of wimp out of using it. And it does feel a bit strange saying it, especially the first few times, for sure, absolutely. But I found it's been very beneficial. I think in an online meeting, it can be done a little bit softer, for sure. But it definitely has a place. So please do give that some consideration. Next bit is desired outcome. I think when we do online meetings are just so easy to do, right? Just push one button and we're straight into our meeting. In the old-fashioned days, we might get in our cars and drive for half an hour to get to our meeting. We might get on a train. Sometimes we have to get on a plane and fly to another country just to complete a meeting. Now, when that's such a sort of difficult exercise to do, we kind of instinctively give it a lot of consideration. What's the information we're going to give? What's the information we're trying to extract or get? What's the outcome we're looking to achieve? And at least for me, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's guilty of this. Sometimes I've not done those sort of steps, and I've just sort of jumped into a meeting and kind of winged it. And guess what? I've not always got the best outcome from that meeting. So being really clear, what is your desired outcome? Even if that desired outcome is just another meeting, that's totally valid. Write that down and be just really clear what it is you're aiming to do. Then, once we've done that bit, we want to look at what is the critical points that you need to mention to help you achieve that desired outcome. And, for example, I've written down 4 points that I want to mention during this little video clip. Sometimes I've got more, but I try and find 3 to 5 points. In my experience, especially if it's a piece, like maybe it's talking to a prospect, there's probably some USPs, there might be some testimonials or critical piece of information that if you convey that to your guests, you are going to have a much better chance of getting your desired outcome. So we need to make sure they're done. Now, what I have seen myself do in the past, when I first started using this sheet, I was kind of half using it. And I would realize at the end of the meeting, oh my God, I've only said one of the 5 things I meant to do. And perhaps I didn't achieve the desired outcome. Well, Simon, no big surprise. I didn't tell them 4/5 of the critical things I needed to convey. So I'm probably not going to get the result I need, right? So what I do now is I have this sheet in front of me, and if I can see the meetings, closing or about to finish, I'll take a look and I'll actually, guys, I'm just going to quickly check. There's nothing else I want to cover. Oh yes, there was one other point we've not covered, which I'd just like to raise. Can I just take a moment and tell you about X? And I'll just be blatant about that. And actually, it doesn't matter that you've forgotten about it. Actually, it's professional. You've got notes and you didn't miss something, right? So by the end of that meeting, I should have a tick next to each of these points, knowing that I've given myself the best chance to achieve that. And then the last 2 points on here is the punchline and then the outcome. So I'll do this in reverse order. The outcome is, did you achieve that desired outcome? You might not know that straight away. Sometimes it might take a few days before you know what the outcome is and if you achieved your desired outcome. And the only piece of information, only kind of statement that is perhaps more important, more critical than your opening statement is your closing one, your closing statement or the punchline. It's so easy just to end, thanks everybody, really nice to chat to you, all the best, bye now, bye, and you kind of drift off in a really watery, yucky, loads of loss of energy at the end of the meeting where it's kind of awkward. Someone's accidentally hung up on the other person because it's not a clean end. It's just a bit rubbish, isn't it? I mean, I'm hitting the laptop as I do that, which is why I'm bouncing around. It's just a bit rubbish. So we want to have a clean and simple, slightly punchy close to that meeting wherever possible. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to actually come up with. Now, what I've seen some people do, and I've seen it work very, very well, is they have a fairly well-rehearsed leaving statement, usually just like a one-liner. It's almost like a piece of branding for them, and just say that at the end to wrap up the meeting or the video clip. That works particularly well in a sort of video clip rather than a live meeting. That's not something I'm currently using, but probably something I will use in the future. Definitely something worth exploring, something we probably will be introducing at Overnight Design, because we do a lot of meetings, as you might imagine. So with that in mind, I've got a couple of bits I want to leave you with. First of all, I'm on a bit of a mission, just not because we're in the information age, right? And there's just so much information. I want to help us move beyond information to actually spreading wisdom. So me telling you this piece of information actually achieves absolutely nothing, right? It's only if you go and do something with it will it make a difference. So I'm really going to give you a bit of a kick and kind of urge you to do something with it. Now, I've made it easy for you. You can download this cheat sheet and please, print out 10, 20, 40, 50 copies. Tell other staff members, other colleagues about it. Do the same there. or by all means come up with your own version, but do it now. Either download the one I'm about to give you, or make your own and make it up now and just photocopy it a bunch of times and use it. Right, so that's the first thing I'm going to request and kind of urge you to do. Now, I can only do so much, right? You're the one that's going to need to take some action if you want to benefit and if you want to improve your online meetings. So that's my little rant. And my challenge to you is to do that for the next 10 meetings. Use your prep sheet. Just spend 2 minutes completing this check sheet, this prep sheet, before your next 10 meetings. And I'm sure it will really, really improve your meetings. And please let me know how it goes. Did it improve it? Were there other things that you added to your prep sheet to improve it even further? Any additional tips? Have you passed it on to other people so that they also improve their business meetings? So that's it. That's my challenge to you, the 10 meeting challenge. Over and out.